These islands we call home have a rich and varied history stretching back thousands of years. But hidden below the surface,
Look at that.
are some amazing treasures just waiting to be found.
Wow. Look at me, I'm shaking.
So each year across the country, archaeologists dig, dive and explore their way down, searching for fresh discoveries.
It's something quite magical about digging down through this dark soil and then suddenly there's a gleam of gold.
Uncovering traces of ancient lives.
It's amazing, isn't it? This is nothing like this anywhere else in Europe.
It still moves.
Yeah.
And finding fascinating objects.
I've never seen anything quite that profound.
As every dig provides a new piece of the puzzle, new details of Britain's forgotten past. This is the epic and unfolding story of our islands. This time I'm travelling around the west of the United Kingdom, looking for that region's most interesting digs. West of Oxford, a Roman villa complex with some big surprises.
Oh my goodness, this is a huge building.
And wonderful small finds.
I've never seen one like that.
In Devon, exotic discoveries emerge from a 17th century site.
This is not something I would have expected on this rural farmstead.
Historian Yasmin Khan investigates and uncovers the region's dark past.
It's just so stark seeing the word slaves bought.
And on Anglesey, detectorists return to the site of an epic Iron Age discovery.
Wow. Look at that. Unbelievably brilliant.
With remarkably well-preserved finds.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
The first dig takes us to Grove, 12 miles southwest of Oxford. On the edge of the village, a new housing development is underway. But these homes aren't the first to have been built on this plot of land. Archaeologists surveying the site have discovered an intriguing complex of buildings dating back nearly 2,000 years to the Roman period. Now, the archaeologists really didn't expect to find much here. When they did their test trenches, nothing much turned up. Then they did geophysical survey, and again, there wasn't really much to see. Then they started to excavate, and they found something really exciting. It's Roman, and it's enormous. The team from Red River Archaeology had been excavating for over a year when they started to uncover the foundations of a previously unknown Roman villa. They had no idea how significant this find would turn out to be. Site director Francesca Giorelli is showing me around.
Francesca, hi.
Hi, Alice. Welcome.
Lovely to meet you. This is a huge site.
Oh, yes. Quite a sight, yes.
I wasn't quite expecting to see walls as soon as I walk onto the site. This is the villa, is it?
Yeah, this is our villa complex.
Wow. The foundations are really well preserved.
Yeah.
And there's pottery everywhere.
Oh, yeah, the site is completely littered with
Yeah,
pottery.
yeah. So we're
yeah.
walking up a corridor here. We've
Yep.
got rooms to the left of us, another room over here.
Yeah. This will be the front of the building with the two little wings.
So this is the front of the villa here?
Yeah, the front of the villa
Yeah,
is over there.
yeah.
This is the main living quarters of the villa.
The footprint of the villa clearly shows a suite of rooms linked by a corridor flanked with two wings. The design is typical of a domestic Roman building at the centre of a farming estate. But it was what the archaeologists discovered next that got them really excited. A much larger building right next to the villa.
Wow, this is a huge building. Amazon warehouse, like.
walking around the site with Francesca, I can't quite believe how large it is.
I can see the corner of it there, but presumably it extends off in this direction.
Yeah, it stands 16 meters in that direction and about 55 in the other. So
Yeah.
it will cover about 500 square meters.
That's amazing.
It dwarfs the villa. The outline of the building is very clear, but there are other clues to its architecture. We can see the bases of pillars, which would have divided the space inside into 3 aisles. Covering an area of 500 square metres, this is already looking like one of the largest aisled buildings or halls ever discovered in Britain.
Do we know what it is? What would it have been used for?
Well, they've been used for a plethora of different functions. We think that whoever was living in the villa also lived in this ale building for a while,
Right.
but also will be used for like storage. And but
Right.
in later history of the Romans time, they are also been used as like cultural center.
Yeah. That's a fascinating site.
Yeah.
Especially since you didn't know anything was here.
One of the questions to be answered is whether the aisled hall existed alongside the villa or whether one replaced the other. The archaeologists have found more than just stone foundations on site. There are also traces of the fabric of some of the buildings, helping us to imagine what they would have looked like.
The green matches. They're good. It's like...
Project manager Louis Stafford is showing me some of these finds.
Now, what is this? This looks exciting.
It's painted wall plaster. You've got your lovely earthen tones, red and brown with a very, very Romanesque Roman banding.
So this bit looks interesting. Look at that colour. That's lovely.
Yeah. So this is blue pigment that you're seeing on here. Normally in the Roman period, if you're going to get a blue colour like that, it's from sort of lapis lazuli that's coming all the way from potentially Afghanistan, or it might be a slightly different version that's coming from Egypt.
So these people, they must be pretty wealthy in order to
Definitely
decorate
well
their villa
connected
like
within
this.
the greater Roman Empire to get
Yeah.
those sorts of things imported, yeah.
Yeah, having seen the rooms in plan, I'm now imagining them. Just
You
getting a
will
glimpse of what this villa would have been like on the inside. You know, richly
Highly
decorated.
Decorated, yeah.
Yeah.
The painted plaster speaks of high status. This was a well-appointed villa complex with no expense spared. And among the thousands of finds are personal objects which connect us to the people who lived here.
So we've got a nice intaglio ring with a blue gem in the middle,
Oh, that's lovely. It is carved.
a little bird.
Isn't that beautiful? See, this is when it starts to get really personal.
then we've
Something that was
got-
actually on someone's finger. What's that piece? That looks lovely.
So we've got a lovely little buckle.
Oh, that's gorgeous. It's got animal heads on it. What is it? Is it?
It's a double-headed horse buckle.
That's quite fine, isn't it? They've got little eyes as well.
Yeah,
Is that a known style?
it's very late Roman. In fact, it almost goes into sort of early Anglo-Saxon.
So one of the later finds on the site then?
Yeah.
That's really lovely. What a beautiful find.
This buckle dates right to the end of the Roman period in Britain, to the early 5th century, and perhaps even later. But the team are also uncovering evidence of much earlier buildings on the site. There were clearly people living here before the Romans arrived in Britain.
So here we got our roundhouses.
Oh yeah, they're really clear, aren't they? These
Yeah.
curving ditches coming through.
Yeah, they can really pop out.
Hello, Mo.
Hi.
So you're standing in a roundhouse.
Yeah, we have like 2 ring ditches for like Iron Age, which is hopefully give us like a formation for like Iron Age settlement.
Yeah. So the big question then is whether the people that were living here in the Iron Age, whether they're the ancestors of the people who end up living in that villa.
The team have recovered thousands of sherds of pottery from the site, which help to tell the story of the people living here, as well as providing useful dating evidence.
Oh, that's a nice bit. What's that?
This bit is a nice cheese strainer.
Isn't that lovely? I mean, it's like a colander, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Right.
Oh, it's got a centaur on it.
It does.
That's really lovely. Have you got an idea of the kinds of centuries that we're talking about?
It's going from late Iron Age all the way through to very early to very late Roman.
So you think there's continuous occupation here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the way through.
I mean, given that we've got this continuity on site, do you think rather than looking at a country retreat of a rich town person, do you think we're more likely to be looking at a wealthy family that's probably been here a while through the generations?
It could be a local that's started to adopt Roman ways, or it's you know, somebody who's come over from the continent and built that villa, stamping sort of authority. But it certainly seems that they were becoming more affluent as the time went on, that they could actually put up a fairly expansive building and then put up a bigger one.
The villa itself and that huge aisled building would have been very prominent in the landscape. And alongside the pottery and building materials, the archaeologists have discovered some intriguing finds.
Now, what is this?
We got some tiny little axe heads called votive axe heads. These are normally found.
Oh, my goodness.
On,
They're really tiny. It's a doll's house axe.
It is tiny. We tend to find these on temple sites, sort of votive offerings to the gods.
So it's not a. You don't think it's a child's toy? You think it's something to do with religion, effectively?
It does seem to be on sites that are very typical temple sites.
These are really curious. I've never seen one like that. They're slightly
Enigmatic.
mysterious. They are enigmatic. That's just the word.
So these next objects, again, quite often find on temple sites.
The reason I'm wearing the glove is because it's made of lead.
It is. You can see that's tightly wound and coiled lead, and they're normally inscribed with a little curse.
So these are Roman curse tablets,
Yeah,
potentially.
Defixiones.
Yeah. So this is unusual for a villa site.
It is. It does potentially point to something like, you know, small family shrine or a small local shrine being used by the wider population.
I've drawn these two buildings, the villa and the aisle building, side by side, but in fact the archaeologists think that the villa is earlier and that this could have been an upgrade. It's certainly a lot bigger. It's an enormous building. You get a sense of that looking at the footprint of it on the ground here. These buildings were used for all sorts of things. This one would have been magnificent. We get a glimpse, of course, of the people who are here from those small finds. What we don't know is whether we're talking about wealthy Romans who've arrived in Britain or a local farming family who are doing very, very well in Roman Britain. And their roots may go right back into the Iron Age, and perhaps their ancestors lived in the roundhouses.
Roman Emperor Claudius invaded Britain with his army in 43 CE. In some places, the Romans seem to have been welcomed in with open arms. But Wales was a stronghold of resistance, and it took the Romans almost 2 decades to reach northwest Wales and the Menai Strait.
Our next story sees archaeologists returning to a site where an incredible hoard of ancient metalwork was discovered in the 1940s. But it turns out there are still new discoveries to be made.
The site is at RAF Valley on the island of Anglesey. The airfield here was built during World War II and became operational in 1941. The following year, the runways were being lengthened to allow much larger planes, including American heavy bombers, to land and take off. But before the airfield could be extended, the sandy terrain had to be stabilised, and that was done using peat from the edges of the nearby lake Llyn-Cerrig-Bach. While digging the peat, the workers made an incredible discovery. A hoard of ancient metal objects. Archaeologists were called in and ended up recovering more than 180 iron and copper alloy artifacts before the peat was spread across the airfield. The the Llyn Cerrig hoard is one of the most important discoveries in Wales, dating to the Iron Age. This year, more than 80 years after this amazing hoard was discovered, the MOD needed to carry out maintenance work on the airfield. Before the new tarmac is laid, they've called in a team of archaeologists to check the underlying peat in case any artefacts were missed. Richard Osgood is leading the dig and filming the investigation.
We've got to find a methodology that'll work for recovery of anything that's on the runway. And the only thing I can think of, really, is to use a great team of metal detectorists.
The team of 10 metal detectorists meticulously scan the airfield.
That's identifying a ferrous smell.
But their devices can't tell the difference between ancient artefacts and modern metal.
A definite piece of iron chain. It looks quite modern and agricultural, doesn't it?
So it's a frustrating process. And just as they were about to call it a day, one of the detectorists, Graham, makes a potentially exciting discovery.
Graham, what have you got? This better be good.
Well, I was just walking back and and I thought, right, yeah, let's dig it.
Oh my goodness, Graham. That is stunning.
Richard suspects that this is Iron Age metalwork. And as Graham carefully excavates around it, the excitement grows.
There's more there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievably brilliant.
The fact that these things are still articulated.
Oh.
Look at me, I'm shaking.
Oh, yeah, that's... Crack
Well
on, then.
chopped.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Well done, mate.
Back in the tent, Richard has brought along this new discovery to show me, along with another intriguing find from the airfield. Adam Gwilt and Adele Bricking from National Museums Wales are joining us.
What are we looking at then? Adam, this is your specialty. What are these objects?
So amazingly, these objects have survived in the peat on the airfield, and this is a complete bridle bit, which would have gone into the mouth of a pony, and this is called a terret. It's a guide for the reins on the chariot.
Now, how dateable are they?
We know that they're probably middle to late 1st century AD.
Can I pick that up?
Yes,
Is that...
please do. Yeah.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
It's heavy as well, isn't it?
It is heavy, yeah. It's just so beautifully made. I love the design of it. And was it immediately obvious what it was?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could use that today. I have a horse and it's actually quite similar to the one that
Is it quite small? Because presumably those fold back along the cheeks of the horse.
Yeah, so that would be like a pony.
Yeah.
Pony size.
It's just such a beautiful, ornate object, isn't it? It doesn't need to be that beautifully made.
Yeah, it's definitely, they're showing off a little bit. It's meant to be appreciated, not just used.
That terret, is there a colour on it? I can see, is this red here?
Amazingly, there's red glass decoration that's been inset around the ring.
Yeah.
It's a very particular kind of Iron Age technology. And if you imagine the contrast between the red and the golden bronze colour, it would have made quite a statement at the time.
Yeah. And it's fantastic to have this reconstruction of an Iron Age chariot here. Where does that terret sit on this chariot?
So on each British chariot, you have a set of terrets along the yoke here, and the reins would be drawn through them and held by the charioteer here.
Yeah. Why are these things ending up in the bog?
The combined dating evidence suggests that this was the place that people were returning to and choosing to gift these valued objects.
If it's been happening over hundreds of years, we're actually looking at a place which is, for want of a better word, sacred.
The evidence does suggest that this was a religious site of some importance, and it does suggest that this lake on this isolated island was a special place where this kind of religious practice took place.
There is religious significance into these put into the water, and that's the thing you make a sacrifice.
We're talking about the Iron Age overlapping with the Romans.
Yeah.
There is a clash going on between, you know, the British people and these incoming armies.
Yes, and there's an amazing account of the Romans crossing the Menai Straits around about AD 60, 61, and being terrified by furies of druids meeting them in opposition.
Are you going back?
Absolutely. I think there will be more, and we'll be getting back in touch with you hopefully again when we find more.
So it's quite important, actually, to go back and find more. It is building our picture of what those hordes were over time.
We've just touched the surface.
There's more to find.
We'll definitely use all that we can get to build up that wider picture.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully there'll be more to talk about next year.
Next year?
Yes,
Brilliant.
ideal.
I'll have you all back.
Turn the soil, weave the dream, thread the river, break the sand, and dig for those whose stories lie with buried pasts and futures won.
It took the Romans some 25 years to subjugate Wales, although it was only ever a partial conquest. They would leave their mark on the landscape, the language, and on wider culture. During the 4th century, the Romans would adopt a new state religion, one which would outlast the empire itself. Next, we travel 15 miles west of Cardiff to the Vale of Glamorgan and the town of Llantwit Major. This Welsh town is named after St Illtyd, one of the most venerated Celtic saints. Illtyd was an abbot and a famous teacher who lived from the late 5th into the early 6th century, during the early medieval period.
This is the rather lovely St Illtyd's Church. And like many churches, it's a palimpsest. It's accumulated different bits over time. The earliest bits of it go back to the time of the Normans. But inside, there are even more ancient monuments. These are early medieval monuments. They were found in the vicinity of the church here at Llantwit Major, and the patterns on them are absolutely gorgeous, but what's really drawn me here is the fact that they've got inscriptions on as well. So if we look around the back of this one, up here we can see a name. There's a cross, and then the letters I-L-T-I. It would have been Illtyd. So it's the saint after whom this church, and in fact the whole town, is named. This is 10th century. This takes us back another century, and we've got a name here. Can you see this? H-O-U-E-L-T. Hwelt, that's King Howell, a 9th century Welsh king. And then this stone is the earliest of all of them. And here I can make out a name again. So Eutha, H-E-L-O, Eutha Halo. And we know that this is an 8th century Welsh king. We know that from the annals. So we've got an incredible association between Welsh royalty and Llantwit Major. This was clearly a very important place.
Those medieval monuments are evidence that this place was a religious centre with royal connections centuries before this Norman church was built. The monastery that was named after Illtyd continued to exist in some form up until the Reformation in the 16th century. But the original buildings from the time of Illtyd seem to have been lost without a trace. Now, a team from the University of Cardiff are searching for evidence of the early monastery here. They've opened a trench 70 metres from the church after receiving an unusual tip-off. Tim Young is leading the dig.
The only excavation prior to us coming in here within this area that's produced early monastery period finds was the work of badgers in the woods just behind you on the other side of the stream.
They do make pretty good archaeologists, actually.
They do.
Yeah.
They're digging up burials.
Yeah.
So we have now a minimum of 4 individuals from the Badger set.
Okay.
We've dated 2 of those, and they're 7th to 8th century.
Following the Badger's discovery of human remains dating to the early medieval period, Cardiff University commissioned a geophysical survey, hoping that this might help them find the lost monastery.
This is the geophysics. The yellow colour is the internal subdivisions within a broader enclosure, which appears to enclose much of the valley.
Yeah.
It's about half a kilometre or so in length.
Yeah. So you think this was all the monastery?
We're suspicious that it is.
Yeah.
So we were drawn to this site and this field because of this wall. The wall has proved to be Norman on the basis of the pottery that occurs around it.
Okay.
But all the exciting stuff is underneath it. So the base of the walls provides us with a sort of nice Norman horizon of around about 1100.
Yeah.
And everything underneath is potentially part of the monastery.
Although Christianity was the official religion of the late Roman Empire, it's unclear how widely this belief was adopted across Britain. But the religion does seem to have been very well established in Wales by the 5th century, the time of Iltyd. And his monastery is considered to be the oldest centre of Christian teaching in Britain.
I mean, what would it have been like, this monastery, then? It's not just monks.
No, it would have been a broad community. The monasteries are the focal points within the kingdoms, often, of industry and commerce. This is wonderful to have some of these features that take us back into that really key period of history.
Can we get a closer look? Can we go down into the trench?
Yeah, let's go down.
Near the Norman Wall, Tim's students have made another discovery.
What have we got here, then, Tim?
We've got 2 very small graves.
Oh, OK. Yeah.
The one on this side contained a skeleton of a child of about 2, probably. And this one's even smaller.
Right.
And given the smaller size and the lack of bone preservation, we suspect this was probably a very young infant.
Yeah.
While Tim and I are talking, osteoarchaeologist Beth Price has started excavating another burial.
Another infant just coming up on the other side.
There's a skull just starting to
There's a skull just coming out.
Bigger bits of bone, Tim.
You've got some more bone coming through?
Yeah. Come and have a look, because it looks like another skull.
It looks like another skull.
It does look like another skull, yeah. This gets more and more interesting.
This is all we have so far, so it's trying to find the cut so we can kind of get underneath it to get that out then, to have a closer look.
Yeah. Beth, we'll come back later, see what you find. We've got 2 skulls so far, yeah.
Presumably, there's a high-status churchyard up there where we've got kings and abbots being buried.
Yeah.
And we're, I assume, out on the fringes of that burial activity here.
Yeah, so the ordinary people of old
The ordinary people, yes, yeah.
And in this particular corner, it looks like it was an area that was reserved for the burials of young children.
It's looking that way.
But it's not just burials that are being discovered here. Tim's found evidence of other activity.
Much of what we're finding is slag like this, which is the regular product of a blacksmith doing everyday tasks.
So in the kind of late 7th into the 8th century, we've got metalworking here, industrial activity, and burials.
And burial only
to
just
the
over
south.
there, yes.
Yeah.
But there's one curious find that could provide a link between this industrial activity and monastic life.
We have these pieces of fired clay. And so this material is characteristic of the clay coats that are put onto iron objects when they're brazed. And back 650, 770, one of the characteristic objects that is being made this way are the iron handbells that were used in the early Christian church. Here, we're only getting these tiny fragments, but it's possible that that's what they're from.
These replicas, made using the same brazing technique, show what these handbells looked like.
It's a fascinating thought that it could be.
That's fantastic. So it's only a suggestion
It's
at the
only a
moment.
suggestion at the moment, but it's
quite tantalising.
It's very tantalising. So,
Yeah.
yes, indeed.
Are you just about to try lifting them?
After hours of painstaking work, Beth and Tim are ready to remove the 3 skulls they've uncovered for further examination.
So the plan now is to block lift them, and then back in the lab, they'll be really carefully excavated in a very controlled way.
That's the plan. They're clearly very, very fragile.
Yeah.
Further analysis of these remains may reveal more about the inhabitants of Llantwit Major 1,500 years ago.
Get it in your reach. And if I pass you the shovel, we'll do the reverse of... Yep. One.
One down.
Good.
I absolutely love the story here. I mean, the fact that this site was essentially discovered by badgers is intriguing in itself. And then we've got those inscribed stones, and they are gorgeous, and they take us back from the 10th to the 9th to the 8th century. And now, what Tim and his team are finding here is pushing back into the mysterious 7th century, and we're getting tantalisingly close to St Illtyd himself.
I dreamt I flew with the saints last night. I know them all by wing size.
But now we're going to drag ourselves from the 7th to the 17th century, when Britain had established itself as a naval power. International trade was growing, and the foundations of the empire were being laid. The ports of London, Liverpool, Portsmouth and Plymouth were becoming some of the world's busiest. But maritime trade was also flourishing in smaller towns and villages along the west coast of Britain. Our next dig takes place at a small seaside town where archaeologists were excavating ahead of a new housing estate being built, turning up some surprising revelations about international trade. We're travelling to North Devon, to the town of Ilfracombe, on the edge of the Bristol Channel. Today, Ilfracombe's rugged coastline and picturesque harbour make it a popular summer holiday spot. But back in the 17th century, Ilfracombe Harbour was a thriving port during the early modern period. This dig takes us a mile inland to where archaeologists have discovered the foundations of a 17th century farmhouse.
We are actually seeing the construction method of this building, which is, for archaeologists, this is actually quite exceptional.
And some astonishing finds from the site are raising questions about who might have lived here.
During our excavations, we have recovered some very unusual artefacts.
Sean O'Regan from AC Archaeology is leading the dig.
This is our east-facing range of the structure. As you can see, very thick, very substantial. They've been using these locally sourced material, quartzite boulders, absolutely rock hard, with lime plaster over top that will last for decades. But you haven't experienced it today, but I can guarantee you that if you're facing an easterly wind, that you need some good, solid walls in front of you or around you.
And the harsh conditions that sometimes batter this coastal hilltop haven't changed.
Yeah. Here we have our hearth. Absolutely lovely piece of architecture. The hearth is the central focus of your building. This is our chimney stack, chimney breast. It suggests that a second story was here, possibly the second floor added at a later date.
Whoever the owners of this farmhouse were, they were clearly doing well and investing in their property.
This was a substantial structure, so not just a run-of-the-mill farm building. You know, there's a lot of money and time and effort went into building this.
But the architecture of the building doesn't reveal where this newfound wealth came from. It's the small finds from the site that offer clues about the people who lived here. Naomi Payne is the finds manager.
This shed, I was really surprised to see. The pottery type is Werra slipware because it's from the Werra Valley in central Germany, and it's made its way to the UK in small quantities in the very late 16th and early 17th centuries. So this is not what I would expect to find on a site in the middle of North Devon. This certainly indicates status.
And it's not just pottery that the team are finding.
We've got a coin. It's a 17th century coin which was minted in Spain.
The coin features Philip IV of Spain, who reigned from 1621 to 1665. It would have been legal tender across the expanding Spanish Empire.
There would have been a lot of opportunities locally for people to travel on, you know, crewing ships and that kind of thing, and they might have acquired this coin on a ship.
And there are other clues that those who lived at the farmstead may have been amassing a fortune from ventures overseas.
So this is another unexpected find from the site. They usually only turn up in the UK on a fairly large coastal port site. So this is a glass bead, or part of a glass bead. They're known as chevron beads or star beads, and they're typically made in Venice and Murano. They were seen as high status and exotic objects, and they are in effect currency at this date in the 17th century. So again, this is not something I would have expected to see on this rural Devon farmstead. You just wonder about the connections, who's lived here and gone off to seek their fortune, crewing ships sailing out of Bideford and Barnstaple or even Ilfracombe. We can only speculate about the long journeys that some of these objects have had to get to North Devon.
To discover more about these global connections, historian Yasmin Khan is visiting the Devon Heritage Centre in Exeter.
In the 17th century, the British Empire really started to take shape as British people settled in the American colonies and started to take control of some of the Caribbean islands. And Devon, positioned on the southern tip of England, was perfectly placed to send ships far and wide. I'm meeting an expert in early Atlantic trade, historian Lila Chambers. Lila, these are some of the things that have been found at the farmstead. So we've got a coin here and this beautiful broken bead.
Yeah, so these are both very interesting in the sense that they span pretty wide geographies. So the Spanish coin would have been circulating throughout the Atlantic. And so in trades like the Atlantic slave trade, or really any sort of merchant venture in the Atlantic world, the most desirable trading item would have been a Spanish real. These types of beads were extremely popular in West Africa as both a trading currency to an extent and as a sort of item of prestige.
So they're being used not just for jewellery, they're actually a trading currency.
And definitely from Atlantic trade, and more than likely from Atlantic slave trade, yes, because they're such a specific item for the West African market, and that's where they held the most value. You can pretty confidently assume that this would have been involved in some way in the Atlantic slave trade.
Wow. The accounts book of one Devonshire family, the Burwells, details how merchants transported these beads to West Africa and traded them for enslaved people.
Here we see the kind of broad accounts of the trade, and you really start to see the human horror of what's happening in transatlantic slavery. So we have a column for the beads and all the detailed information about the date they were sold on and for what amount. But we also have a list of men, women, boys and girls, so children as well, being purchased.
It's just so stark seeing the word slaves bought like that, and the numbers in these kind of columns. It's so dehumanizing.
These enslaved African people would have been transported across the Atlantic and sold to slave owners in the Americas. This would have made a lot of investors, like the Burwells, very wealthy, but at a horrifying human cost.
Many of these voyages would have a 20 to 30% mortality rate. So, you know, that pretty large numbers of people are dying, and often they're people that are already vulnerable to disease and malnutrition as well. So children and older people.
It's just the sheer profit motivation which jumps off the page at every turn.
Yes.
So, we hear about Bristol and London and Liverpool, but Devon isn't necessarily somewhere that is immediately associated with slave trades from England.
You know, Devon had a real economic boom in this period before it was superseded by places like Bristol or Liverpool. And so this find at the farmhouse is really kind of a key moment of wealth generation in Devon related to Atlantic trade.
It's really striking to think of these smaller places in Devon booming as part of a connection to this global trade, but with such sort of ugly underbelly to it.
This trading bead represents the dark side of our history and connections to the slave trade in unexpected places. We're now leaving behind the maritime connections of the British Empire to investigate the overland routes of a much more ancient superpower.
The Romans loved their roads, and they built an extensive network of them right across the empire, including, of course, Britannia. From settlement to settlement, you'd be able to travel for hundreds of miles, but you'd want somewhere to stop off along the way.
Our next dig is on the edge of the Cotswolds, 5 miles south of Cheltenham. Here, a new bypass is being built, and archaeologists have stripped back a huge 60 hectares of land.
We've been working here for over 12 months now, and this is our last area, and we've probably saved our best area until last.
The site lies alongside the A417, which links Gloucester to Cirencester, along the route of an even older thoroughfare, Ermine Way, dating back to the Roman period. Roman roads allowed the rapid movement of troops and military supplies, but were also used for general trade and transport. Ermine Way was a vital link between Gloucester and Silchester, and plenty of Roman finds are emerging from this big dig.
What have you just found, Cameron?
Just found a coin.
Is it Roman?
Yeah, it is, yeah. We found this blue glass bead.
Not only is it a coin, it's a silver coin. Oh, there's a find. These are quite rare.
Alex Thompson from Cotswold Archaeology is the project manager.
We're very close to a Roman road, so we knew there was potential to find features alongside that Roman road. And then the evaluation trenching that identified a Roman building.
It's a simple, compact building with 2 rooms and an outdoor yard. It seems to have stood on its own next to the road. Its solitary location is puzzling the archaeologists.
We're quite early in the stages of our excavation, so kind of tying down exactly what they were using the building for is a bit difficult at this stage.
But archaeologist Dan Sozins is starting to find some clues.
So what we're finding within this building is evidence of lots of little different activities. From on top of this surface, we've gathered quite a lot of finds: horse harnesses, bridles, cart furniture, and lots of spent nails. So we're walking past the driveway now towards the main building. And what we can see here now, this first room is probably likely the workshop area. We've recovered lots of tools, iron tools in here. So we're walking through the threshold now, and straight away we can see lots of evidence of domestic occupation. So here we see the quernstone, which is used for producing flour. We also have our hearth and large chunks of mortarian pottery and Samian ware all coming out of the surface, which had likely been used for cooking their dinner. So whoever owned this building or ran this building certainly had fingers in most pies.
I want to know more about this mysterious roadside building. Alex and Dan have brought their best finds to the tent.
So tell me what these finds tell us about this building.
Some of the finds that we've had date from no later than 60s AD. So the Romans arrived in 43 AD,
Yeah.
and very quickly, within a couple of decades, they were in the southwest and into the Cotswolds and building Ermine Street,
Yeah.
stamping their authority on the landscape.
What we have here in front of us, these are hippo sandals, so these are really early horseshoes.
Yeah.
The hoof would have gone into this socket at the front here. This would have gone over like a sandal, hence the name.
Isn't that a brilliant term for them as well? I mean, hippo is horse, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hippo sandals.
Yeah. So you also have this artefact here, we believe is either of decoration of a horse harness or of some sort of horse-related paraphernalia.
Yeah.
We also had quite a lot of quernstones, which are indicative of flour manufacturing.
Yeah.
It could be bread production as well. we
So people are grinding cereal.
Yep.
They've got horses.
Yep.
What's that?
That is a Roman key. So it's either for the front door or for a travelling chest. We had other keys as well from the site, such as this little bronze key ring here as well.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. I mean, that's how not to lose a key, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah, I should get some of these made. I mean, it's a motley collection of lots of different finds. What's it suggesting to you?
Most likely got a family or a group living in the building and offering their services to travellers, some sort of stopping point for horses to be looked after, treated, horseshoes changed, removed, added.
So you're going to see it in the distance and think, oh, I could stop there. My horse is a bit tired. I need something to eat. So it's basically, I know it's not a motorway, but it's a bit like a motorway services.
That's certainly one way of looking at it.
Yes.
The 19th century was a time of immense change in Britain. There was mass migration from the countryside into booming towns and cities, as growing industrialisation prompted many to leave behind farms and fishing ports for factory work and urban life.
As our cities were expanding in the 18th and 19th centuries, they swallowed up the surrounding countryside. But archaeologists digging in cities can recover that rural history.
And that's exactly what they're doing at our next dig in Bedminster, in my hometown of Bristol. Home to over 500,000 people today, Bristol is the 8th biggest city in Britain. This dig takes us back to a time of unprecedented and rapid change during the Industrial Revolution. The River Avon flows from east to west through the middle of Bristol. But there's a lesser-known network of waterways that flow through and beneath the city. This dig is taking place next to a tributary of the Avon, the River Malago. Here, a team of archaeologists are excavating the site of a proposed shopping centre.
So we've been slowly peeling away the layers to kind of work out what's going on.
Beneath the dense urban archaeology is evidence of a more rural landscape. Chris Hambleton from Wessex Archaeology has been filming the dig.
And what we actually have and have been looking for the last couple of weeks is a mill that was built here in the 1820s.
Watermills were ubiquitous in pre-industrial Britain, using the power of water to grind wheat into flour. This mill would have served the local community around Bedminster.
Oh, so this is actually one of the millstones that would have actually sort of been grinding the corn, which is absolutely gorgeous, as you can see. And what's happened is it's broken and then it's been repurposed and used as a floor. So this is actually where the mill wheel was. This is really lovely here. What we've actually got, you can see the way it's sort of grooved in here. So the wheel has actually worn the stone down, which is really lovely. And look at this lovely curve to it.
By the mid-19th century, there were 30,000 working watermills in Britain. Most of them have vanished from our landscape, or they've been repurposed or even moved. So this dig represents a rare opportunity to examine the remains of a watermill in situ.
This is where people were actually living in the 19th century. So we've got the remains of walls and cobbled surfaces. So what we've got just down in here is a Victorian-built culvert with a gorgeous dome to it, brickwork, beautifully made in the 19th century.
Culverts are used to contain rivers and streams in underground channels. As the archaeologists dig into the ground surrounding the wheel pit, they can see that the mill was adapted over time.
See, we've removed the facing away, and actually what we've got was the blocking here. So we now know that the level of the water that was coming towards the wheel has changed over time. So this is super cool. We sort of actually worked out some phasing here of the Georgian mill.
I'd love to know more about this forgotten watermill, so I've invited Project Officer Vix Hughes to the Digging for Britain tent.
It's an amazing sight when you get there. You would have no idea there's a river there because obviously it's all culverted underneath. Everybody's built over it.
And I'm a Bristolian. I've never heard of the River Malago.
It's just not there anymore. It's there, but culverted and very small, and that's part of the story of the watermill.
So what did you know about this mill before you started digging?
Well, we had some sort of documentary evidence to suggest it, and amongst the documents, we were lucky enough to have some maps. So this is one of our early maps. This is 1828. The big River Avon is there. And then our little Malago River is just down here that flows up into it. So our mill is just there. And you can see all the surrounding area is all ploughed fields, which is an open area. It's agricultural. You know, that really sets the mill and its landscape. People bring in their grain, get it ground up on the millstones, and then it exits as flour.
Not much detail about the architecture of the mill there, though, is there?
No, and that's one of the key problems. All I've got is a little rectangle, and that doesn't show you anything of the detail of the walls that we found.
Did you manage to get good dating evidence? I mean, you brought some of the finds in here, and this must help you date the life of the mill.
Yeah, so when was the mill built was a little bit tricky, but we were very lucky. We found this lovely surviving hand-blown glass bottle, and it dates from about 1710.
Brilliant. Can I pick it up?
Yep.
Completely mortared into the wall.
Yeah. Things are built by builders, so it could just be that that was their lunchtime drink, and that's just the way they got rid of the evidence. Just pop it in the wall as they're building it up. People do it these days, don't they? They pop things under floors and behind wallpaper. So yes, we know the mill is in place by 1710, and that's our evidence just there.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Nobody's going to argue with that. That's pretty forensic, isn't it? OK, so it's in place there in the early 18th century. Is this? What about these objects here? That's lovely.
Yeah, these are all aerated water bottles.
Fizzy water.
Exactly.
So that one actually says Bristol on it
Yes,
there.
yeah.
This one, they're really lovely,
They are,
aren't they, Vic?
This one is our exotic one. This is the one from Cardiff. And these come from towards the end, so these are about 1890-ish.
What happens to the mill in the end?
Well, what happens to Bedminster is that they find coal and lots of industries move in. So in the space of maybe about 50 years, it goes from a population of about 3,000 people to 78,000 people. So
really?
75,000 people move into the area of Bedminster.
It's a new era.
Yeah.
New energy source.
Yes. We can see the mill on the maps. Shall I
Yeah.
show you what they might look like? There we go. So this one is about 1874-ish, I think. So again, we've only moved forward 50 years,
Yeah.
but it just looks so much different now, doesn't it? You can see the intensification of the housing.
Yeah,
You can see
yeah.
everything is built up.
And there's the mill. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's completely hemmed in.
Yes.
I mean, it's surrounded by houses.
They need to control and cover over a lot of the water courses because they need the land. So
Yeah.
that's why the mill is running out of power, which is why when you go to Bedminster now, you just cannot find the Malaga. You know, it's really
No.
difficult. You can't find any of these water courses.
I've never
that are
even heard of
definitely
it.
leaving Yeah.
No. I want to go and find it now. I want to go to Bedminster and go and find the Malaga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Next time on Digging for Britain, I venture into the New Forest
Rehabilitation centre.
Yeah, Gypsy Rehabilitation Centre.
to uncover Britain's lost Romany heritage.
It was all a very forced thing to end that sort of nomadic life.
Historian Yasmin Khan delves into Devon's harrowing Civil War experience.
Gosh, it really comes off the page, that sense of anguish.
And in London, the city's earliest inhabitants give up their incredible burial secrets.
Objects we've only ever seen in pictures or paintings.